The flag dropped. Sophia released the clutch and twisted the throttle. Everything happened at once. The rear tire bit into the pavement. The engine roared. The world became a blur of sound and motion. Travis launched perfectly. His expensive bike shot forward like a bullet. The crowd gasped at his explosive start. Within seconds, he was a full bike length ahead. His launch was flawless, exactly what $15,000 and professional tuning could deliver. Sophia's launch was not as clean. The turbo lag meant her initial acceleration was slower. She felt her stomach drop as Travis pulled ahead. All her fears seemed to come true in those first terrible seconds. She was going to lose. All that work for nothing. But Sophia remembered Mr. Chen's training. She kept the throttle steady, waiting for the turbo to fully pressurize. She shifted into second gear at exactly the right moment. The engine speed climbed. The turbo started building boost. At the 3-second mark, Travis was 2 bike lengths ahead. He looked over his shoulder, already celebrating. His friends on the sideline were cheering, certain of his victory. Then Sophia's turbo hit full boost. The effect was dramatic and instant. The bike seemed to explode forward. The acceleration was violent, pushing Sophia back in the seat. The turbo whistle became a scream. The engine sound changed from a roar to a howl of pure mechanical fury. The crowd saw it happen. They saw Sophia's old bike suddenly surge forward like it had been launched from a catapult. People started yelling, pointing, unable to believe what they were seeing. Travis heard his engine note change behind him. Something was wrong. He was supposed to be pulling away easily, but the gap was not getting bigger. If anything, it was getting smaller. He twisted his throttle harder, but he was already at full throttle. His bike was giving everything it had. Sophia's bike kept accelerating. The turbo pushed compressed air into the engine, creating power that should not exist in such an old machine. Every modification Sophia made, every late night of work, every calculation and adjustment, it all came together in this moment of incredible speed. At the halfway mark, Sophia pulled alongside Travis. For one frozen moment, they were exactly even. Travis looked over and saw her next to him. His eyes went wide with shock and disbelief. This was not possible. This was not supposed to happen. The crowd went absolutely insane. People were jumping up and down, screaming, grabbing each other. Nobody expected this. Nobody thought the junkyard bike could match the expensive racing machine. But there they were, side by side, thundering down the road at incredible speed. Sophia did not look at Travis. She stayed focused on the road ahead. She could see the finish line in the distance, marked by 2 orange cones. She shifted into third gear. The turbo kept screaming. The bike kept accelerating. Travis desperately tried to pull ahead. He tucked himself lower behind his windscreen to reduce drag. He shifted his weight forward. He did everything he knew how to do. His bike was at absolute maximum performance. But Sophia's bike had one more advantage. It was lighter. Much lighter. While Travis's bike had heavy fairings and accessories, Sophia had stripped everything non-essential from hers. That weight difference, combined with the turbo power, meant she was still accelerating while Travis's bike had hit its top speed. With 100 yards to go, Sophia pulled ahead by half a bike length. The sound of her turbo was deafening now, a mechanical scream that cut through everything else. Her whole body vibrated from the engine's power. Her hands ached from gripping the handlebars so tight. Travis knew he was losing. He could see Sophia moving ahead. Panic set in. He tried one last desperate move. He jerked his bike slightly toward Sophia, trying to make her back off or lose concentration. It was a stupid, dangerous move. Frank saw it from the sideline and immediately started yelling, but it was too late. The bikes were going too fast and the finish line was too close. Sophia saw Travis's bike move toward her. For a split second, fear flooded through her. If they collided at this speed, they would both crash badly. She could die. She could kill Travis. Everything in her screamed to break, to back off, to let him win, but something deeper refused to quit. Sophia did not break. Instead, she twisted the throttle even harder, willing the bike to give her just a little more. The turbo responded with one final surge of power. She pulled away from Travis, creating just enough space to avoid contact. The crowd saw the near miss and gasped collectively. It happened so fast that most people did not even realize how close it was to disaster. 50 yards from the finish. Sophia was now a full bike length ahead. Her bike was performing beyond anything she hoped for. All the junk parts, all the improvised solutions, all the late-night worries about whether it would even work. None of that mattered now. The bike was perfect, 25 yards. Sophia could see people at the finish line, their faces blurred by speed. She could hear the crowd screaming, though the sound seemed distant and strange. Everything felt like slow motion and fast motion at the same time. 10 yards. She was going to win. The impossible was becoming real. The underdog was defeating the champion. The girl nobody believed in was proving them all wrong. 5 yards. Travis was falling further behind, his bike simply unable to match her acceleration. His dream of easy victory was shattered. His confidence was destroyed. Sophia crossed the finish line first. One full bike length ahead, maybe more. It was decisive. It was undeniable. She won. For a moment, Sophia could not process it. She had won. She actually won. The race she thought she might lose. The challenge she thought was impossible. The moment she had worked toward for 3 months. It was over. And she won. She rolled off the throttle, letting the bike slow naturally. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold on. Her legs felt like water. Adrenaline coursed through her body, making everything seem surreal and dreamlike. The crowd exploded with noise. People were running toward the finish line, shouting and cheering. Some were hugging each other. Some were jumping up and down like they had won the race themselves. The energy was electric, overwhelming, incredible. Travis crossed the finish line seconds later. He immediately braked hard and pulled to the side. He sat on his bike, his helmet still on, not moving. The reality of what just happened was crashing down on him. Sophia stopped her bike and took off her helmet. Her hair was a mess, stuck to her forehead with sweat. Her hands were still trembling. She looked around at the chaos of the celebrating crowd, and suddenly the emotions hit her all at once. She had won. Against all odds. Against all doubts. She built something from nothing, and it beat the best money could buy. Mr. Chen was the first to reach her, moving surprisingly fast for an old man.
"You did it!"
he shouted, his face showing more emotion than Sophia had ever seen from him. "You actually did it!" Sophia's father appeared next, leaning on his cane, tears streaming down his face. He could not speak, just pulled Sophia into a hug. She could feel him shaking with emotion and illness, but in that moment he seemed stronger than he had in years. "I am so proud of you," he finally managed to say. "So proud." People kept coming up to Sophia, wanting to shake her hand, pat her back, take pictures. The tattooed man from earlier pushed through the crowd. "You are the real deal, kid." That was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Frank, the race organizer, made his way over with a huge grin. "That was one of the best races I have ever seen. Clean riding, amazing engineering. You earned that win fair and square." Sophia tried to respond to everyone, but she was overwhelmed. She felt dizzy from adrenaline and emotion. Everything was too much, too fast, too intense. Then the crowd parted. Travis was walking toward her. He had taken off his helmet. His face was red, whether from embarrassment or anger, Sophia could not tell. His friends followed behind him, looking uncomfortable. The celebrating stopped. Everyone went quiet, watching to see what would happen. This was the moment. This was where Travis would either honor the bet or try to weasel out of it. Travis stopped in front of Sophia. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then slowly he extended his hand. "You won," he said simply. His voice was flat, all the cockiness gone. "Fair and square. You built a better bike and you rode it better." Sophia stared at his hand, not quite believing this was happening. Then she reached out and shook it. Travis held the handshake for a moment, then raised his voice so everyone could hear. "I need to say something. To everyone here." He turned to address the crowd. "I challenged Sophia, thinking it would be a joke. I thought there was no way a girl working with junk parts could build anything worth racing." He paused, and when he continued, his voice was quieter. "I was wrong. Completely wrong. Sophia Rodriguez is one of the best mechanics I have ever seen. What she built with almost no money and what I paid $15,000 for, hers was better. That takes real skill. Real talent." The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Travis turned back to Sophia. "I am sorry for how I treated you. For the things I said. For not taking you seriously. You deserve respect, and from now on you got mine." It was not a perfect apology. Travis still looked uncomfortable, like the words were hard to say. But they were genuine. That much Sophia could tell. "Thank you," Sophia said quietly. She did not need anything more than that. Sofia Rodriguez wiped the grease from her hands onto her old coveralls. She stood under the broken car looking up at the oil pan. The wrench felt heavy in her small hands, but she knew exactly what to do. She had been working in this garage since she was 12 years old. Now at 17, she could fix almost any car that came through the door. The garage belonged to her father. It was a small place on the edge of town, near the old factories that nobody used anymore. The paint on the walls was peeling. The sign outside was faded and rusty, but inside the tools were clean and organized. Sofia made sure of that. She loved every corner of this place, even though it was falling apart. Her father sat in the small office, coughing into his hand. He had been sick for 2 years now. The doctors said he needed to rest, but they could not afford for him to stop working. Medical bills kept coming in the mail. The shop barely made enough money to pay for rent and supplies. Sometimes Sofia wondered how much longer they could keep going. A customer walked in, a middle-aged man in a business suit. He looked around the garage with doubt in his eyes. Sofia walked toward him, wiping her hands again. "Hello, sir. How can I help you?" she asked politely. The man looked at her and frowned. "Is your dad here? I need someone to look at my car." Sofia felt the familiar sting in her chest. This happened almost every day. "My father is not feeling well today, but I can help you. What seems to be the problem?" The man laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. "No offense, kid, but I need a real mechanic. When will your dad be available?" Sofia kept her face calm even though his words hurt. "Sir, I am a real mechanic. I've been fixing cars for 5 years. I can diagnose your problem and give you a fair price." The man shook his head. "I will come back another time." He walked out without looking back. Sofia stood there for a moment, staring at the empty doorway. She heard her father cough again in the office. She knew he had heard everything. She walked back to the car she was working on and slid underneath it again. The work always made her feel better. When she held a wrench, when she understood how an engine worked, she felt powerful. She felt like she mattered. Later that afternoon, Sofia heard the loud sound of motorcycle engines outside. She knew that sound well. It was Travis Kane and his friends. They were local boys around 18 or 19 years old. They rode expensive sport bikes and wore matching leather jackets. They thought they owned the street. Travis was the leader. His father owned 3 car dealerships in the next town. Travis had money, confidence, and a mean streak. His bike was a custom Yamaha R1, painted bright red with chrome details. It cost more than Sofia's father made in a year. The bikes pulled up near the garage. Sofia could hear them talking and laughing. She tried to ignore them and focus on her work. But their voices got louder. "Look at this dump," one of them said. "How is this place still open?" "I don't know, man," Travis replied. "Probably fixing lawnmowers and grocery carts." They all laughed. Sofia felt anger rise in her throat, but she stayed quiet. She learned long ago that responding only made things worse. One of them noticed her under the car. "Hey, there's that girl. The one who thinks she's a mechanic." Sofia rolled out from under the car and stood up. She was short, just 5 feet 2 inches tall. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her face had a smudge of oil on the cheek. She looked at them without saying anything. Travis smiled at her, but it was not friendly. "Hey, grease girl. You still playing with cars?" Sofia picked up a different wrench from her toolbox. "I am working. Do you need something?" "Working?" Travis laughed. "Is that what you call it? My little sister has a toy tool set. Maybe you two could play together." His friends thought this was hilarious. They laughed and hit each other on the shoulders. Sofia felt her hands shake, but she kept her voice steady. "If you are not customers, please move along. You are blocking the entrance." Travis revved his engine, making it scream loud. The sound echoed off the buildings. "This is a public street, grease girl. We can stand wherever we want." Sofia turned to walk back into the garage. She heard one of them say something about her being too scared to talk back. She heard them laugh again. She went to the small bathroom in the back and locked the door. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror. Her reflection showed a tired girl with dark circles under her eyes. She worked 12 hours a day, sometimes more. She went to school in the morning, came straight to the garage after, and worked until late at night. On weekends, she worked all day. She had no time for friends. She had no time for fun. She had no time for anything except work and taking care of her father. But when she looked at that reflection, she also saw something else. She saw determination. She saw someone who refused to quit. She saw someone who knew more about engines than anyone in this town, even if they would not admit it. Sophia washed her face and went back to work. The motorcycle sounds faded away as Travis and his friends rode off to bother someone else. The afternoon passed slowly. 2 more cars came in. One needed new brake pads. The other had a problem with the alternator. Sophia fixed them both. When evening came, she helped her father close up the shop. He moved slowly, his breathing heavy. She wished he would go see the doctor again, but she knew they could not afford another visit. Sophia, her father said quietly as they walked to their small apartment above the garage, you should not let those boys bother you. They don't bother me, Papa, she lied. Her father stopped on the stairs and looked at her. His eyes were tired but kind. You are more talented than anyone I have ever known. One day people will see that. One day you will do something so amazing that nobody can ignore you anymore. Sophia smiled and helped him up the rest of the stairs. That night she lay in her bed looking at the ceiling. She could hear the highway in the distance. She could hear the sound of motorcycles sometimes racing through the night. She thought about engines. She thought about speed. She thought about power and design and all the ways a machine could be improved. Her mind was always working, always thinking, always dreaming. On the wall next to her bed she had pictures of famous motorcycles and race cars. She had sketches she drew herself, ideas for modifications and improvements. She had a small notebook where she wrote down everything she learned. Sophia closed her eyes and made herself a promise. Someday she would build something incredible. Someday she would show everyone what she could really do. Someday those boys on their expensive bikes would understand that money could not buy real skill. But tonight she was just a tired 17-year-old girl in a dying garage in a forgotten part of town. Tomorrow she would wake up and do it all again. That was her life and she accepted it. For now. 3 weeks passed. Sophia's routine stayed the same. Wake up early, go to school, come back to the garage, work until dark. Her father's cough got worse. The bills kept coming. The garage stayed empty most days. It was a Thursday afternoon when everything changed. Sophia was changing the oil in an old sedan. The car belonged to Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who always paid on time and always said thank you. Sophia liked customers like her. They were rare. She heard the motorcycles before she saw them, that familiar roar of expensive engines. She kept working, hoping they would just pass by. But the sound got closer and then stopped right outside the garage. Sophia took a deep breath. She wiped her hands and walked toward the entrance. Travis and 4 of his friends were there. They had their helmets off, sitting on their bikes like they were posing for a photo. The afternoon sun made their chrome shine. Well, well, Travis said with a grin. If it isn't our favorite grease monkey. Sophia stood in the doorway, her arms crossed. What do you want, Travis? Oh, she knows my name, he said to his friends. I'm famous. They all chuckled. We were just riding by and saw you working. Thought we would stop and see how the business is going. Looks pretty slow in there. Sophia did not respond. She learned that silence was sometimes the best answer. Travis got off his bike and walked closer. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with styled blonde hair and expensive sunglasses. He wore a leather jacket that probably cost more than Sophia's entire wardrobe. You know what I think? Travis said, looking around the garage. I think this place should be torn down. It's an eyesore. My dad says this whole block is going to be redeveloped soon anyway. Sophia felt a cold fear in her stomach. She knew the town had plans for this area, but nobody told them anything official yet. This garage has been here for 30 years. Yeah, and it looks like it, one of Travis's friends said. They all laughed again. Travis walked past Sophia into the garage. She followed him, not wanting him to touch anything. He looked around at the old tools, the cracked floor, the ancient equipment. He picked up a wrench from her toolbox and examined it. You know, he said, I spend more on maintaining my bike in a month than this whole place probably makes. That's kinda sad, don't you think? Sophia took the wrench from his hand. If you are not a customer, please leave. Travis looked at her with mock surprise. Wow, getting tough now. I like it. He walked over to where Mrs. Chen's car was lifted on the jack. You actually know what you're doing under there? Yes. Prove it, Travis said suddenly. His voice changed. It was not teasing anymore. It was challenging. Sophia looked at him. What? Travis smiled, but it was a cold smile. You heard me. Prove it. You walk around here like you are some kind of master mechanic. You give us attitude like you are better than us. So prove you actually have skills. Sophia felt her heart beat faster. I do not need to prove anything to you. That is what I thought, Travis said, turning to his friends. All talk, no action. Something inside Sophia snapped. Maybe it was the weeks of stress. Maybe it was watching her father struggle. Maybe it was years of being dismissed and ignored. Whatever it was, she felt it break loose. What exactly do you want me to prove? She asked, her voice sharper than before. Travis turned back to her, his eyes lighting up. A race. A race, Sophia repeated. Yeah, a race. You think you are such a great mechanic? Build something and race me. My bike against whatever you can create. He gestured at the junk piled in the corner of the garage. Though I do not see how you could build anything worth racing with this garbage. His friends were smiling now, sensing entertainment. One of them said, Dude, that would be hilarious. Sophia should have said no. She should have walked away. But she was tired of being laughed at. She was tired of being treated like she did not matter. She looked Travis straight in the eyes. Fine. The garage went quiet. Even Travis looked surprised. What did you say? I said fine. I will race you. Sophia's voice was steady now. 3 months from now. Quarter mile. Your bike against mine? Travis laughed, but it sounded forced. You do not even have a bike. I will build one, Sophia said simply. Travis studied her face, trying to figure out if she was serious. Then he smiled wide. Okay, Grease Girl. You got yourself a deal. 3 months from today. When you lose, you have to admit in front of everyone that you are just a fake playing pretend mechanic. And when I win? Sophia asked. Travis laughed harder this time. If you win, which you won't, I will personally apologize and tell everyone you are the best mechanic in town. But we both know that is not going to happen. He stuck out his hand. Sophia looked at it for a moment. This was stupid. This was reckless. She had no bike. She had no money. She barely had time to sleep. But she shook his hand anyway. 3 months, she said. Travis squeezed her hand hard, trying to intimidate her. She did not flinch. He let go and walked back to his bike. This is going to be so good, he said to his friends. We will see you in 3 months, Grease Girl. Try not to chicken out before then. They started their engines with loud roars. Travis revved his bike several times, the sound echoing through the garage. Then they rode off, leaving a cloud of exhaust behind them. Sophia stood there, watching them disappear down the street. What had she just done? She had no bike. She had maybe $200 in savings. She had never even built a motorcycle before. Her father appeared from the office. His face was pale with worry. Sophia, what were you thinking? I do not know, Papa, she admitted, her confidence suddenly draining away. I really do not know. That night, Sophia could not sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She had made a promise she might not be able to keep. Travis had a $15,000 custom racing bike. She had nothing, but as the hours passed, something changed inside her. The fear started to transform into determination. She got out of bed and turned on her small desk lamp. She pulled out her notebook and started drawing. She sketched ideas for bikes. She wrote down parts she would need. She calculated costs and possibilities. The more she worked, the more excited she became. This was crazy. This was impossible. But maybe, just maybe, she could do it. By the time the sun came up, Sophia had filled 12 pages with drawings and notes. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was clear. She knew what she had to do. She would find a way to build something incredible. She would show Travis and everyone else that she was not just playing pretend. She was a real mechanic. And in 3 months, the whole town would know it. Sophia went to the bathroom and splashed water on her face. She looked at herself in the mirror. The tired girl was still there, but something else was there too. Fire. Purpose. A challenge that finally meant something. She smiled at her reflection. Let's build a bike, she whispered. The impossible had a way of becoming possible when someone refused to quit. Sophia did not know that yet, but she was about to learn it. The next 3 months would be the hardest of her life. But they would also be the most important. The challenge had been made. The promise had been spoken. Now came the hard part, keeping it. The first week was the hardest. Sophia had drawn beautiful plans in her notebook, but plans did not create real motorcycles. She needed parts. She needed money. She needed luck. Every morning before school, Sophia checked online marketplaces. She looked at salvage auction websites. She browsed motorcycle forums where people sold old parts. Everything was expensive. A good used engine alone cost more than all her savings. On Saturday morning, Sophia woke up before dawn. She had a list of junkyards to visit. Her father was worried about her riding the bus alone to these places, but she promised to be careful. She took her backpack with her notebook, some tools, and her small amount of cash. The first junkyard was 2 hours away by bus. When Sophia arrived, she saw mountains of crushed cars and broken machinery. An old man with a gray beard sat in a small office by the entrance. He looked at Sophia suspiciously. "We are closed to kids," he said. "I am not here to play," Sophia replied. "I am looking for motorcycle parts." "Do you have any bikes?" The old man laughed. "Motorcycle parts? Those are expensive, girl. You got money?" Sophia showed him the cash she brought. It was not much. The old man shook his head. "That will not buy you anything useful. Go home." Sophia's heart sank, but she did not move. "Please, sir, can I just look? Maybe there is something you think is worthless that I can use." The old man studied her face. Something in her expression made him pause. "You really building something?" "Yes, sir. I am building a racing bike." He was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "All right. You got 30 minutes. Bike section is in the back past the truck parts. But do not touch anything without asking me first." Sophia thanked him and ran toward the back of the junkyard. She climbed over piles of metal and squeezed between rusted frames. Finally, she found it. A section with old motorcycles. Most were completely destroyed. Some were just twisted metal. But then she saw it. In the corner, under a pile of car doors, was an old Honda. It looked terrible. The paint was gone. The tires were flat. The handlebars were bent, but Sophia could see past all of that. She could see the frame, which looked straight. She could see the engine, which looked complete. She pulled away the car doors and examined the bike closer. It was from the 1980s, probably. The model number was scratched off. But as Sophia looked at it, she saw potential. This could work. This could actually work. She ran back to the office. The Honda in the back corner. "How much?" The old man looked surprised she found anything worth wanting. "That old thing? It has been sitting there for 2 years. Engine is probably seized. Not worth the metal it is made from." "How much?" Sophia asked again. The old man scratched his beard. "Tell you what, you got $50 in that hand?" Sophia counted her money. She had exactly $63. "Yes, sir. Give me 50 and it is yours. But you gotta haul it out yourself." "I am not helping." Sophia could not believe it. $50 for a complete bike, even a broken one. Deal. It took her 3 hours to drag that motorcycle out of the junkyard. She had to take apart some of the heaviest pieces and carry them separately. Her arms ached. Her back hurt. But she did not stop. When she finally got everything to the entrance, the old man helped her load it onto a small trailer. "You got a way to get this home?" he asked. Sophia had not thought of that. The bus would not allow it. She did not have a truck. She looked at the old man helplessly. He sighed again. "Where do you live?" When Sophia told him, he shook his head. "That is an hour drive. You know what? I got nothing better to do today. I will drop it off for you. But you owe me. Someday when you are a famous mechanic, you tell people old Eddie helped you get started." Sophia felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." Eddie drove her and the bike parts back to the garage. When her father saw them unloading pieces of the old Honda, his face went pale. "Sophia, what is all this?" "This is my race bike, Papa," she said, smiling despite her exhaustion. Or it will be. Over the next few weeks, Sophia became obsessed. Every free moment was spent researching, planning, and hunting for parts. She learned everything she could about turbos, performance modifications, and racing setups. She watched videos until late at night. She read articles and forum posts from expert builders. She sold her bicycle to a neighbor kid for $20. She sold her old phone and used her father's phone when needed. She sold some clothes she never wore. Every dollar went into a jar labeled Bike Fund. Sophia discovered a website where people traded parts. She offered to do mechanical work in exchange for components. One man needed his lawnmower fixed. She fixed it and he gave her a carburetor. Another person needed help with their car. She helped them and they gave her some chrome pieces. The garage became her laboratory. After finishing work on customer cars, she would push them aside and pull out her project. She cleaned every piece of the old Honda. She organized parts on a big table. She labeled everything. One evening, Mr. Chen came to the garage. He was an old man who lived 2 blocks away. His family ran a restaurant in town. He had been a mechanical engineer before he retired. "I heard you are building something," Mr. Chen said, looking at her project with interest. Sophia nodded, wiping oil from her hands. "Yes, sir." "A racing bike." Mr. Chen walked around the table examining the parts. His experienced eyes saw things Sophia had missed. "This frame is good, strong, but you will need to reinforce here and here." He pointed to specific spots. "And this engine, you are planning to turbocharge it?" "Yes, sir," Sophia said. "But I am still learning how," Mr. Chen smiled. "Turbos are tricky. Get them wrong and the engine explodes. Get them right and you have something special." He looked at her seriously. "Why are you doing this?" Sophia told him about the challenge with Travis. She told him about wanting to prove herself. Mr. Chen listened carefully. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "Pride can be dangerous, but determination is valuable." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. "I have a storage unit full of old parts from my engineering days. Some motorcycle components, too. You can have whatever you need. Just promise me you will be safe and smart about this build." Sophia could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Really? You would do that for me?" "I believe in young people who work hard," Mr. Chen said simply. "Come by tomorrow and we will look through everything." That night, Sophia could barely contain her excitement. She updated her plans in her notebook. With access to Mr. Chen's parts, she could build something much better than she originally hoped. But she also understood the enormous task ahead. She had 2 months left. She still needed so many components. She still had to actually assemble everything. She still had to make it run. And then she had to make it fast enough to beat Travis's expensive racing bike. Some nights doubt crept in. She would lie in bed thinking about all the ways this could fail. What if the engine did not work? What if she could not afford a crucial part? What if she built everything wrong and it fell apart? But then she would remember Travis's smug face. She would remember all the customers who ignored her. She would remember every time someone called her just a girl playing with tools. That anger fueled her. That determination kept her going. Sophia worked harder than she ever had before. Her school grades suffered a little, but she did not care. This was more important. This was about proving who she really was. She cut her sleep to 5 hours a night. She stopped seeing the few friends she had. Her entire life became the garage and that motorcycle. Her father worried, but he also understood. He had seen that look in her eyes. It was the same look he had when he first opened the garage 30 years ago. By the end of the 3rd week, Sophia had collected most of the major components. The frame was stripped and ready. The engine was disassembled and being cleaned. She had found a turbo system at Mr. Chen's storage unit. She had traded repair work for wheels and tires. The project was taking shape. Slowly, piece by piece, the impossible was becoming possible. Sophia stood in the garage late one night, looking at all the parts laid out before her. It still looked like chaos. It still looked like a pile of junk, but in her mind she could see the finished bike. She could see herself riding it. She could see herself winning. That vision kept her going when everything else told her to quit. Month 2 began with both excitement and fear. Sophia had all her major parts now, but having parts and building a working motorcycle were 2 different things. Every night she transformed the garage into her workshop. Customer cars got moved outside after hours. Her project took center stage. The first challenge was the frame. Sophia spent 3 full days stripping off every bit of old paint and rust. She used wire brushes until her arms felt like rubber. She used sandpaper until her fingers bled through her work gloves. But she did not stop. The frame had to be perfect. Mr. Chen came by every few evenings to check her progress. He would examine her work with a critical eye, pointing out mistakes before they became disasters. "This weld here is too weak," he would say. "Redo it. Or this angle is wrong. It will affect your balance." At first, Sophia felt frustrated by his corrections, but she quickly learned he was saving her from serious problems. Every mistake fixed now was one less failure on race day. The engine rebuild took 2 full weeks. Sophia had rebuilt car engines before, but motorcycle engines were different. Everything was tighter, more precise, more delicate. She worked with tiny tools, her face inches from the metal, sweat dripping onto her work despite the cold garage air. One night, she dropped a crucial bolt inside the engine casing. It took her 4 hours to get it out. She almost cried from frustration. Her father found her at 2 in the morning. still working by flashlight because she was too tired to walk to the light switch. "Sophia, you need to sleep," he said gently. "I cannot. Papa, I only have 6 weeks left." Her father knelt down beside her. His breathing was labored, his face pale. "Listen to me. This bike is important, yes, but you are more important. If you break yourself, the bike does not matter." Sophia looked at her father's tired face and felt guilt wash over her. She had been so focused on her project that she barely noticed how much sicker he had gotten. "I am sorry, Papa, I will rest soon. I promise," but she did not rest. She could not. The clock was always ticking in her mind. The turbo system was the most complicated part. Sophia had studied turbos for weeks, but reading about them and installing one were completely different. The turbo had to connect to the exhaust, feed compressed air into the engine, and work with the fuel system. Everything had to be perfectly balanced. Mr. Chen spent hours teaching her about air pressure, fuel ratios, and engine timing. "Too much boost and the engine will explode," he explained. "Too little and you waste the turbo. You need to find the sweet spot." Sophia made dozens of small brackets and mounts to hold the turbo system in place. She had to fabricate custom pieces because the old Honda was never designed for this kind of modification. She learned to weld better. She learned to measure twice and cut once. She learned that mistakes were expensive when you had no money for replacement parts. One evening, Travis and his friends rode past the garage. They saw her working inside and stopped. Travis walked in uninvited, his friends following behind. "Still working on that pile of junk?" Travis asked, looking at her project with amusement. 5 weeks to go. "You really going through with this?" Sophia did not look up from her work. She was connecting fuel lines and needed complete focus. "Yes?" Travis walked around the bike, which was still mostly disassembled. He laughed. "This is not even close to finished. You know what? I am starting to feel bad. This is going to be too easy." One of his friends picked up a wrench from Sophia's toolbox. "Dude, look at these old tools. My grandfather has better stuff." "Put that down," Sophia said, her voice firm. The friend looked at her mockingly but put the wrench back. Travis leaned against her work table. "You know, it is not too late to back out. Just admit you cannot do it. No shame in knowing your limits." Sophia finally looked up at him. Her face was smudged with grease. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. But her voice was steady. "Get out of my garage, Travis." Something in her tone made Travis pause. For a moment, he almost looked uncertain. Then he smiled and shrugged. "Whatever. See you in 5 weeks, grease girl." "This is going to be hilarious," they left, their laughter echoing as they rode away. Sophia sat there for a moment, fighting back tears of frustration and exhaustion. Then she took a deep breath and went back to work. The next week, something amazing happened. The engine fired up for the first time. Sophia had spent all night finishing the internal assembly. At dawn, she poured in fresh oil, connected the battery, and turned the key. Nothing happened. She checked the connections. Tried again, nothing. She adjusted the carburetor. Tried again, still nothing. She was about to give up when Mr. Chen arrived for his morning coffee at the garage. "Not starting?" he asked. Sophia shook her head, tears threatening to spill. "I checked everything. I do not know what is wrong." Mr. Chen looked at the engine for exactly 30 seconds. Then he reached down and adjusted one small wire. "Try now." Sophia turned the key. The engine roared to life. The sound was rough and loud, but it was running. Sophia laughed with joy and relief. The engine was alive. But making it run was only the beginning. Making it run well was the real challenge. Over the next days, Sophia tuned and adjusted everything. She changed the fuel mixture. She adjusted the timing. She tweaked the turbo settings. Each change made the engine sound a little better, run a little smoother. The frame came together piece by piece. Sophia mounted the engine, connected all the systems, installed the wheels. She fabricated a custom exhaust that would handle the turbo pressure. She used lightweight materials wherever possible to reduce weight. She wanted to paint it something special, but paint was expensive. She had barely enough money for essential components. Then Mrs. Chen, the old lady whose car Sophia often fixed, came to the garage. "I heard you were building a motorcycle," Mrs. Chen said. "My late husband used to paint cars. I still have some paint in my basement. Would you like it?" Sophia wanted to hug her. "Yes, please. Thank you so much." The paint was midnight blue, a deep color that looked almost black in low light. Sophia spent 2 days preparing the surface, sanding everything smooth. Then she carefully applied coat after coat of paint. She added thin silver accent lines that she traced by hand. It was not professional, but it was clean and purposeful. With 2 weeks left, the bike was finally assembled. It sat in the garage looking like a real motorcycle. But looking real and being fast were different things. Sophia needed to test it. She waited until very late at night when the streets were empty. She rolled the bike out of the garage, her heart pounding. She had never ridden a motorcycle before. She learned everything from videos and books, but she never actually rode one. She put on a borrowed helmet. She sat on the bike. It felt powerful beneath her, like a sleeping beast. She started the engine. The sound was incredible, deep and strong, with a hint of the turbo whistle. She took a breath and released the clutch. The bike lurched forward and nearly threw her off. Sophia's heart jumped into her throat. She quickly regained control and tried again, more gently this time. The bike moved forward smoothly. She rode down the empty street, getting used to the weight and power. Then she opened the throttle. The turbo kicked in with a scream. The bike surged forward so hard that Sophia almost lost her grip. The acceleration was terrifying and thrilling at the same time. She had never felt anything like it. She rode for an hour, learning the bike's personality. It was aggressive and powerful. The turbo lag meant nothing happened at first. Then suddenly everything happened at once. It would take practice to control properly. Over the next days, Sophia rode every night. She got better at handling the power. She learned when the turbo would kick in. She learned how to launch without spinning the rear wheel. She learned how to shift gears at exactly the right moment, but something was wrong. The bike was fast, but it was not fast enough. She could feel it. Travis's bike was professionally built and tuned. Hers was a collection of junk parts held together with determination. In a straight race, she might lose. Sophia spent the final week making final adjustments. She reduced weight by removing anything non-essential. She fine-tuned the turbo to give more boost. She adjusted the gear ratios for better acceleration. Every little change might give her a few extra tenths of a second. Mr. Chen helped her dyno test the engine in his friend's shop. The numbers were good, better than expected. But were they good enough? Nobody knew. 3 days before the race, Sophia did one final test run. She went to an abandoned road outside town very early in the morning. She lined up at a marker and launched the bike as hard as she could. The turbo screamed. The bike rocketed forward. In exactly 12.3 seconds, she crossed the quarter-mile mark. She did not know if that was fast enough. She had never seen Travis race. She could only hope her best was good enough. That night, Sophia stood in the garage looking at her creation. The bike was beautiful in its own way. It was not flashy or expensive looking. It was purposeful and strong. Every part had a reason. Every modification was carefully planned. She had built this with her own hands from almost nothing. Whatever happened in 3 days, she had already accomplished something incredible. But deep down, she knew that was not enough. She did not just want to finish. She wanted to win. Sophia did not sleep the night before the race. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind running through every possible scenario. What if the bike broke down? What if she crashed? What if she froze up and could not even start? By the time sunrise came, she had imagined 100 different disasters. Her father made her breakfast even though he could barely stand. His cough had gotten much worse. He should have been in bed, but he refused to miss this day. "You need to eat," he said, putting eggs and toast in front of her. Sophia could not taste the food. Her stomach was twisted in knots. She pushed the eggs around her plate, managing only a few bites. The clock on the wall seemed to move too fast. Hours disappeared like minutes. Mr. Chen arrived at 9 in the morning with his truck. "Ready to transport your warrior?" he asked with a smile. They carefully loaded Sophia's bike into the truck bed, securing it with straps. Sophia checked every strap 3 times, making sure nothing could move during the drive. The race was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon at the old industrial park on the edge of town. That area had been abandoned for years after the factories closed. Long, straight roads with no traffic made it perfect for street racing. The police knew it happened, but mostly looked the other way as long as nobody got hurt. By noon, word had spread throughout the town. What started as a simple challenge had become the talk of every school, every shop, every dinner table. The underdog mechanic girl versus the rich biker boy. People loved the story. When Sophia arrived at 1 o'clock, she was shocked by how many people were already there. At least 200 people crowded around the racing area. She saw kids from her school. She saw customers from the garage. She saw people she had never met. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Mr. Chen backed his truck to an open area away from the main crowd. Sophia's father sat in the front seat, too weak to stand for long periods. Sophia carefully unloaded her bike, checking it over one final time. Everything looked good. The engine was perfect. The tires had good pressure. The turbo system was secure, but her hands were shaking. The crowd made everything feel more real and more terrifying. This was not just about proving herself to Travis anymore. It was about proving herself to everyone. A group of younger kids ran over to see her bike. They stared at it with wide eyes. "Whoa, you really built that?" one boy asked. "That is so cool." Sophia managed a small smile. "Yeah, I built it. Are you going to beat Travis?" a little girl asked. She could not have been more than 8 years old. Sophia looked at the girl's hopeful face. "I am going to try my best." More people started gathering around Sophia's bike. Some recognized the old Honda frame and were amazed at the transformation. Others just appreciated the clean, purposeful design. A few older men who knew about bikes examined the turbo system with impressed nods. "You did this yourself?" one man asked. He had tattoos of motorcycles on his arms. "Yes, sir." With some help from friends, the man whistled low. "This is quality work. Real quality." "How old are you?" 17, he shook his head in amazement. 17. When I was 17, I could barely change my own oil. He looked at her seriously. "You got talent, kid. Real talent." Those words helped calm Sophia's nerves a little. At least some people saw past her age and gender. At least some people recognized skill when they saw it. Then the sound of expensive motorcycles filled the air. Travis and his crew arrived, and they arrived in style. 6 bikes, all custom and chrome, all making a huge noise. They drove slowly through the crowd like a parade, revving their engines for attention. Everyone turned to watch them. Travis's red Yamaha R1 gleamed in the afternoon sun. It looked like it had just rolled out of a showroom. Perfect paint, perfect chrome, perfect everything. He wore a matching red racing suit and a high-end helmet. His friends formed up behind him like a motorcycle gang from a movie. They parked in the main area, and Travis took off his helmet. His blonde hair was perfectly styled. He smiled and waved at the crowd like a celebrity. People cheered. He was popular, confident, and expected to win easily. Then Travis noticed Sophia's bike for the first time. He walked over with his friends, the crowd parting to let them through. His smile faded as he got closer and saw the modifications. Well, he said, but his voice had lost some of its mocking tone. "You actually built something." Sophia stood next to her bike, her arms crossed. She wore simple jeans, a t-shirt, and her work boots. No fancy racing suit, no expensive gear, just herself. "I told you I would." Travis walked around the bike slowly. His friends followed, examining it closely. They whispered to each other, pointing at the turbo system and custom exhaust. Travis tried to maintain his confident expression, but Sophia could see a flicker of concern in his eyes. "It is still just junk parts," Travis said, but he did not sound as sure as before. "That Honda frame is ancient. The engine is probably from the last century." "The frame is from 1985, Sophia said calmly. "The engine is from 1987, but age does not matter if the engineering is right." One of Travis's friends, a guy named Derek, crouched down to look at the turbo setup. "Dude," he said quietly to Travis, "this is actually really good work. Like professional level." Travis shot him an angry look. "It is still slower than my bike. Guaranteed." But now other people were comparing the two bikes. Travis's was beautiful and expensive, but it was also exactly what money could buy. Sophia's was unique, built from scratch with creativity and skill. Some people started saying they thought Sophia might actually have a chance. This made Travis visibly angry. He had expected to humiliate her. He had expected everyone to laugh at her attempt. Instead, people were impressed. Some were even rooting for her. "Okay, enough talk," Travis said loudly, addressing the crowd. "Let's get this race started. I got better things to do than waste my whole day here." An older man named Frank, who organized most of the street races, stepped forward. He was in his 50s with a gray beard and wore a leather vest. Everyone respected Frank. His word was law in the racing community. "All right, people, listen up," Frank shouted. "Standard quarter-mile drag race. 2 bikes. Winner is whoever crosses the line first. Simple." He looked at Travis and Sophia. "You both understand the rules?" They both nodded. "Good. Any protests or complaints need to come to me immediately after the race. We will have multiple people watching the finish line to make sure there is no dispute." Frank paused. "This stays friendly, understand? No bumping, no blocking, no dirty tricks. This is about who built the faster machine and who can ride it better. Clear?" "Clear," Sophia said. "Whatever," Travis muttered. Frank pointed to the starting line, a spray-painted mark on the old road. "Line up. You will launch when I drop my flag." Sophia's heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. This was it. 3 months of work, all coming down to the next 60 seconds. She walked her bike to the starting line. Her legs felt weak. Her hands trembled on the handlebars. Mr. Chen appeared beside her. "Remember what I taught you," he said quietly. "The turbo has lag. You need to build revs before you launch. Get the boost ready?" Sophia nodded, too nervous to speak. "And Sophia?" Mr. Chen put his hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens today, you have already won. You built something incredible. You proved you have real skill. Nobody can take that away from you." Sophia felt tears threaten but pushed them back. "Thank you for everything." Travis was already at the line, sitting on his bike, revving the engine repeatedly. The sound was loud and aggressive. His bike was perfectly tuned, making a high-pitched scream that spoke of power and speed. The crowd loved it, cheering with each rev. Sophia mounted her bike and rode to the line next to Travis. She started her engine. It sounded different from his, deeper, with an undertone of mechanical purpose. When she revved it, the turbo made a distinctive whistle that cut through all other noise. Some people in the crowd pointed and commented on that sound. It was unique. It was intimidating in its own way. Travis looked over at her. For a moment, their eyes met. Sophia saw that his confidence had cracks in it now. He was not as certain of victory as he pretended. That gave her a small boost of confidence. Frank walked to a position between them about 20 feet ahead. He held a red flag high above his head. The crowd went completely silent. 200 people held their breath. Sophia's hands gripped the handlebars. She put the bike in first gear. She gave it gas, building the revs, feeling the turbo start to pressurize. Her whole body was tense. This was everything. This was the moment that would define her. Frank's arm stayed raised. Time seemed to stop. Sophia could hear her own heartbeat. She could feel every vibration of the engine. The world narrowed to just her, the bike, and the road ahead. Then Frank's arm dropped. The flag swept downward. The race had begun. The next morning, Sophia woke up in her bed with sunlight streaming through the window. For a moment, she thought the race was a dream. Then she saw her phone on the nightstand, filled with missed calls and text messages. It was all real. She had really won. She walked down to the garage and saw her bike exactly where she left it last night. In the daylight, it looked different somehow. Less like a project and more like a champion. The midnight blue paint gleamed. The turbo system that had screamed so loudly yesterday sat quietly, waiting for the next adventure. Sophia was making coffee when she heard a knock on the garage door. She opened it to find a woman in her 30s holding a professional camera. "Hi, are you Sophia Rodriguez?" "Yes, ma'am," the woman smiled warmly. "My name is Jennifer Lee. I am a reporter for the County Times. I heard about your race yesterday. Everyone is talking about it. Would you be willing to answer some questions?" Sophia hesitated. She was not comfortable with attention, but she nodded. "Okay." Over the next hour, Jennifer asked about the bike, the build process, and the race. She took photos of Sophia and the motorcycle. She seemed genuinely impressed by the story. "This is incredible," Jennifer said. "A 17-year-old girl building a racing bike from junk parts and beating expensive machines. This is exactly the kind of story people need to hear." "It was not just me," Sophia said quickly. "Mr. Chen helped me. My father supported me. Even some customers traded parts for repair work. I could not have done it alone," Jennifer smiled. "That makes the story even better. Community coming together to help someone achieve their dream." The article came out 2 days later on the front page of the local section. The headline read, "Teen Mechanics DIY Turbo Bike Defeats Premium Machines." The story included photos of Sophia in her garage, covered in grease, holding a wrench. It included pictures of her bike. It told the whole story of the 3-month build and the dramatic race. Sophia was embarrassed by the attention, but the effect was immediate. That same afternoon, 5 people called the garage wanting to schedule appointments. By the end of the week, they had a waiting list of customers. People wanted Sophia specifically to work on their vehicles. "Looks like you are famous now," her father said with a proud smile. His cough was still bad, but he seemed happier than he had been in years. The motorcycle community especially took notice. Local riders started stopping by the garage to see the famous turbo bike in person. They asked detailed questions about the build. They wanted to know about the modifications. Some asked if Sophia would work on their bikes. One man offered to buy the bike for $5,000. Sophia politely declined. That bike was not for sale at any price. It represented too much. It meant too much. A week after the race, an official-looking letter arrived at the garage. Sophia opened it nervously, worried it might be bad news. Instead, it was from Midwestern Technical Institute, a prestigious automotive engineering school 3 hours away. The letter explained that they had read the newspaper article. They were impressed by Sophia's skills and creativity. They wanted to offer her a full scholarship for their automotive engineering program, starting the following fall. All tuition, books, and fees paid for. She would study advanced vehicle design, race engineering, and automotive technology. Sophia read the letter 3 times, not quite believing it. A full scholarship to a real engineering school. She could get a degree. She could become a professional engineer. All because she built a motorcycle and won a race. Her father cried when she showed him the letter. Happy tears this time. "You see," he said, I told you people would see your talent." But Sophia was torn. The scholarship was amazing, but what about the garage? What about her father? He needed her help. The business was finally picking up, but he was too sick to handle it alone. Mr. Chen helped solve that problem. He came to the garage the next day with a proposal. "I am retired and bored," he said. "What if I work here part-time? I can handle the basic repairs. Your father can supervise. You can focus on the complicated jobs when you are here, and go to school when you need to." Sophia's father nodded enthusiastically. "That could work. We could make that work." But there was still the problem of money. Even with the scholarship, Sophia would need to eat, to live somewhere near the school, to have basic supplies. Where would that money come from? The answer came from an unexpected source. Travis showed up at the garage one afternoon, no longer wearing his cocky expression. He looked almost humble. "Can we talk?" he asked. They sat in the small office. Travis seemed uncomfortable, playing with his keys. "Look, I have been thinking about what happened." "About what you did? You beat me because you had better skills, not better equipment. That should not be how it is, you know? You should have access to good tools and parts." "I managed okay," Sophia said, not sure where this was going. "Yeah, but imagine what you could do with a real budget." Travis pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. "My dad owns those dealerships, right? I told him about you, about the race, about your skills. He wants to sponsor you." Sophia opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $2,000 and a letter from Travis's father. The letter said the money was a sponsorship for her first year of school. It also said that if she was interested, she could do internships at his dealerships during summers. Why would he do this? Sophia asked, genuinely confused. Travis shrugged. "Because he is always looking for talented people. And because I asked him to. I figured it was the least I could do after being such a jerk to you." Sophia looked at the check, then at Travis. He was trying to make things right. That meant something. "Thank you," she said. "This will really help." Travis stood to leave, then paused. "One more thing. Some of my friends want to bring their bikes here for modifications. Custom work. They saw what you did to yours and want similar setups. Would you be interested?" Sophia felt excitement bubble up. Custom motorcycle work. That was exactly the kind of thing she loved doing. Yes, definitely yes. Over the next months, everything changed. Sophia hired 2 part-time assistants to help with the basic repair work. One was a college student named Amy who needed experience. The other was a 15-year-old girl named Jasmine who reminded Sophia of herself. Passionate about mechanics but dismissed by everyone. Sophia spent hours teaching Jasmine everything she knew. How to diagnose problems by sound, how to organize a workspace, how to handle difficult customers, how to believe in yourself when nobody else does. The garage transformed. Sophia used some of the sponsorship money to buy better equipment. She created a separate area for custom motorcycle work. Word spread about the teenage mechanic who could make bikes faster and better. Soon people were coming from other towns. Sophia kept her turbo bike in the corner of the garage, mounted on a special stand with a spotlight on it. It was not for racing anymore. It was a reminder, a symbol. When she felt overwhelmed or doubted herself, she looked at that bike and remembered what she accomplished. Local schools started inviting Sophia to speak to students about pursuing dreams in STEM fields. At first, she was terrified of public speaking, but she forced herself to do it. Young girls, especially, needed to see that they could work with machines and technology. At one school presentation, a 9-year-old girl raised her hand. "My dad says girls cannot be mechanics." "Is that true?" Sophia smiled. "I think you already know the answer to that question. Look at me, I am a mechanic. A good one. What your dad believes does not change what you can do. You can be anything you work hard enough to become." The girl beamed. After the presentation, she ran up to Sophia with a notebook. "Can you sign this?" "I want to be just like you when I grow up." Sophia signed the notebook, her hands shaking slightly. That moment hit her harder than winning the race. She was not just proving herself anymore. She was opening doors for others. She was showing young girls that they could belong in garages and workshops. That was bigger than any race. Summer arrived. Sophia prepared to start at Midwestern Technical Institute in the fall. Her father's health had stabilized with better medication they could now afford. Mr. Chen practically ran the garage now, with Amy and Jasmine helping. The business was thriving. On Sophia's last day before leaving for school, the whole community threw her a surprise party at the garage. Customers she had helped over the years came. Travis and some of his friends showed up. The local biking community brought their custom machines. Even the reporter Jennifer came with a photographer. Frank, the race organizer, presented Sophia with a trophy they made specially for her. It had a small metal motorcycle welded to the top. The plaque read, "To Sophia Rodriguez, who proved that determination and skill matter more than money and privilege." Travis approached her during the party. Things between them were not exactly friendly, but they were respectful. "You changed things around here," he said. "People look at mechanics differently now. They look at girls differently." "That is pretty cool," Sophia nodded. "Things needed to change." "Yeah," Travis agreed. "They did," he paused. "For what it is worth, losing that race was the best thing that happened to me. I was turning into someone pretty awful. You gave me a wake-up call." As the sun set that evening, Sophia sat on the hood of an old car looking around the garage. This place had been her whole world for so long,